First up, we head to Dallas, Texas for a civil hearing. 33-year-old Amanda Stiles and her ex-husband Ryan Parnell are in a child custody dispute. Parnell's attorney, Lacey Kimball, has filed several motions with the court, which include a request that Stiles take a drug test. Today, both parties appear remotely before Judge Drew Tenike to review the motions. Stiles appears without an attorney.
Good morning. How are you all?
Good morning. How are you?
Morning.
Go ahead, Ms. Kimball.
A custody evaluation was completed, and so we have filed a motion for drug screening and a motion for a psychological exam based upon that custody evaluation recommendations.
Blah, 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 blah.
Stop talking.
Things get off to a rocky start.
You'll be able to respond in just a second. Ms. Kimball, you can go ahead and finish, and then Ms. Stiles, you'll have an opportunity to respond in just a minute.
The judge remains calm as Kimball continues.
We also had sent discovery out as laid out in our motion sometime back. We ultimately never got a response.
You got plenty of responses. Objection.
Hold on, wait a second. Ms. Stiles, you just need to object, and then let me know what your objection is. Don't yell at her.
Objection to hearsay.
Hold on.
Judge Tenike presses the mute button on Stiles, allowing Kimball to speak without interruption.
And then we have an order to compel Ms. Stiles to provide dates for a deposition.
All right, so Ms. Stiles, I'm sending you a prompt to unmute. If you just unmute yourself, you can respond.
Despite her disruptive behavior, the judge moves forward, attempting to get Stiles' responses to the 4 motions in question.
Do you have an objection to taking a drug test?
I use marijuana daily. All day, every day.
Okay.
So I'm glad to take the drug test.
Stop.
Okay, go. It's going to be on his expense,
Stop.
but
Stop. I'm pretty low key. We're in court. You need to be respectful. Just say Judge Tenike. Okay, it's pretty easy. So you use marijuana all day, every day?
Not really all day, every day, but I use it daily, if that helps you with your interpretations. Mr. Low-Key Honorable Judge Tenike.
I'm not interpreting. I just said what you said.
Hey.
What is your response to the request for a psychological evaluation?
I'm not doing it, and you cannot force me to do it. You cannot physically make me go and show up and partake in anything that I do not want to partake in. Yes or no? Do you agree or not agree?
You don't get to ask me questions right now. What's your response to their motion to compel?
Have you read their discovery?
Ma'am, you need to answer my question.
I answered your question.
All right.
By now, even this low-key judge seems to be losing patience.
So I'm going to warn you that it is completely inappropriate to swear like that in court.
Stiles then pushes her camera away.
You need to take yourself, you need to put yourself back on camera. I'm going to sanction you $100 for every time that you swear in court, because that's not appropriate. You just need to not do it.
Judge Tenike tries to get back on track.
In terms of the deposition dates, what's your response to that?
What dates?
Ms. Kimball, do you have proposed dates?
And whose expense? Mine? Because if it's mine, I'm not doing it. Sanction, give me $100 fee. Woo woo.
So I am finding you in direct contempt.
Okay, 1 fine.
Finding you $100.
Okay, make it 2. Damn. I said 2 words.
Ma'am, I don't think you want to do this. I will, as I said, sanction you.
Please do.
Before ending the hearing, the judge tries to get a deposition date on the books.
Which of those dates works better for you, Ms. Stiles?
What time? Dumb. 3 contempts.
You're correct. That is 3.
Supposed to start at 9 a.m.
What date?
That question is to you. Never mind.
Said what time?
I'm not gonna let
Time,
you-
date? You know, these
I'm
things.
not gonna let you look. You don't get to do this for your own pocketbook. I'm muting you for. All right, I'm going to count that as another violation.
Stiles was held in contempt and ordered to pay $400 in fines. As for the child custody case, Stiles later relinquished her rights to the child, including any visitation rights, and the father, Ryan Parnell, has full custody. We're at the Meigs County Courthouse in Decatur, Tennessee, for a family court case. 33-year-old Rashad Hawkins was just given jail time for failing to pay child support. But before he can be taken into custody, he dips out of the second-floor courtroom, drops by the reception desk, then makes his way to the exit. Since it looks like there's nowhere to run, this deputy follows in leisurely pursuit. But Hawkins hops over the second-floor balcony railing, quickly lowers himself down, then drops by on an unsuspecting potted plant below. The deputy appears to be weighing his options. But following Hawkins down is not one of them. Amazingly, after the second-story drop, both Hawkins and the potted plant bounce back into place as if nothing happened. Then Hawkins, who miraculously never lets go of the paperwork he's holding, simply disappears. Back above, the deputy and others look around in disbelief, and below, a few people peek out to see what the commotion's all about. For the next 20 days, Hawkins was a wanted man on the run. But his vanishing act came to an end more than 200 miles away when an officer responded to a trespassing complaint from neighbors reporting a man spotted in their backyards. According to the police report, Hawkins again ran to avoid capture, but was eventually arrested following an altercation with an officer. In addition to his outstanding warrant in Tennessee, Hawkins was hit with a long list of new charges, including criminal trespassing, resisting arrest, and third-degree assault on a police officer. Hawkins is being held without bail until his next court hearing.
Okay, is everybody ready to listen to me?
Next, we go to a child custody hearing in Las Vegas, Nevada.
All right, we're here on
The plaintiff is Shelby Bachman, and the defendant, Jonathan King. The couple are arguing over visitation rights for their 2-year-old son, Joseph. The issue is King's unpredictable work schedule. The attorneys are Don Procopius, and for the defense, Machancy Kramer.
Because my client is a UPS driver, his schedule, though, is not a set schedule. It varies. So he has to keep her notified of when his schedule is changing so that she's aware of pickup. She has told him now if he's more than half an hour late, he forfeits his entire weekend and can't see the kid.
Has Joseph gone weekends that he would have expected to see his father without seeing his father?
He has not missed one weekend. Not one.
The threat was made.
I
Not
didn't
one.
ask you if the threat was made. I asked if it happened. You led me to believe that it was happening.
No.
My client has worked with him at times that it was till Saturday morning that he picked up.
There is a problem here.
After hearing from both sides, Judge Sandra Pomerantz points to the lack of cooperation between the parents.
What I see here is parties not being creative. But these two need to be adult enough to say, okay, this happened, where do we go from here?
But Your Honor, and I agree with you. And so what she's done is on these times where she's worked with him, but then I think it was within the last 2 weekends.
I thought you said you agreed with me.
I do agree with you.
Okay, so listen to me. You're going to be done with this case when this case is over and these parties are divorced. They'll never be done with this case. Okay? So rather than complaining to me, it's a discussion with Mr. Procopius being creative.
It appears the judge has struck a nerve with the defense.
My client has come up with all kinds of solutions, Your Honor, and it comes comes down to what mom wants is what mom is going to demand.
Okay, I don't buy that.
Well, Your Honor, that's how it is.
What I'm telling you is, have you discussed this issue with Mr. Prokofiewicz?
Yes, I have in the hallway.
Okay. And has it been a matter of making demands or saying, what are we going to do?
No, it's a matter of calling my client.
Things begin to get personal, and the judge has a few words for Kramer.
I do have experience with you using inappropriate language.
And you know that I would admit it if I had done it. And if I was going to do it, I would have done it to her face.
You know what? You want to be a sailor, fine. Go be a sailor in your private life. But don't be a sailor in my court or in my cases.
I didn't.
Again, I don't judge people with sailor language because I use a little sailor language, but only in my private life, not in my courtroom, not to a litigant, not to an attorney. I don't do that because that's not professional. And ma'am, I warn you, one of these days, the State Bar is going to catch up to that. Because if you read the rules, there is an ethical rule about fairness to opposing counsel.
I know that there are also rules about treating people equally without regard to race, ethnicity, or gender. I find it highly objectionable that anyone complains about my language because I know all kinds of male attorneys who have no problem picking up the phone and screaming cuss words at me. So if I am outside there where my First Amendment rights are in full effect, I will say what I choose to say when I choose to say it, and that is my right in this country.
Are you done?
But after a few minutes of civility, the counselor starts up again.
We've spent, 5-10 minutes talking about nothing that is relevant to this case because I, as a female attorney, am being chastised over language that men feel free to use every single day, and they do.
You are giving me a headache because you're yelling, and I don't like having a headache.
I'm being attacked, Your Honor.
No, you're not. Sit down, counsel. I'm done hearing from you.
Unsatisfied with the parties' solutions, the judge orders an evidentiary hearing, which means the parents will submit evidence against each other and the judge will make a ruling. In a child custody case, it can get ugly.
Your lawyers are going to be painting a picture for me in court. And it's not going to be a great picture of either one of you about the other.
Even after the judge makes her decision, the defense tries one last argument.
Your Honor.
I have nothing more to say, and I want to hear from either one of you. I'm going to set the trial.
I understand that.
So sit down.
The couple's evidentiary hearing is postponed multiple times and has yet to be heard. Now to Durham, North Carolina, where Judge James Hill is presiding over a child custody case. For 3 long days, divorced parents Rashawna and Colin Morrison have been going at it, quite personally, in the courtroom.
I'm angry that his dad lives in Durham, can go on vacations with friends, take mistresses out to eat, take her on vacation, and can't seem to see his son.
The child's mother, Rashawna, claims her ex-husband abandoned their 3-year-old son and failed to pay child support. He argues she withheld his son from him and is seeking permanent custody. And the judge? Well, he isn't happy with either of them.
I could care less about it, do you? I could. The 2 of you are not important.
And he's about to let them know it.
That's 2 parents, and I'm going to choose my words very carefully here. 2 parents can come in and act like such idiots. Y'all the one that crawled into bed and had sex and made that baby. He didn't ask to be born. But he was. What's important is and you don't need to see 2 adults acting like idiots. Did I say the word idiots?
He did. 3 times. Afterward, Judge Hill turns his attention towards Rashawna.
I have no doubt that you have withheld that little boy. Don't you be looking at me.
I have not withheld.
You say one more word, you say one more word, you're gonna go to the Durham County bed and breakfast today. You say one more word. All right, Deputy Neville, she's got 24 hours of contempt of court. We'll run her mouth as soon as we get done. All right, you got 48 hours. You want to say it again? She's got 48 hours now, Deputy.
Rashawna eventually quiets down, and finally, after 3 heated days in the courtroom, The judge delivers his decision.
Both parents are fit and proper persons, have custody of the minor child, I mean, joint custody.
Just say, I can't do this. This is a disgrace. What you guys are doing, you need to let your son for 9 months go raise your family. You're a drunk, you have a mistress, you have no one who doesn't do anything for nothing. I take care of my baby's business, and I get one because he used to be in his son's life whenever he feels right.
As officers try to restrain her, Morrison's brother, Sherrod Smith, comes forward from the back of the courtroom. At first, he tries to help by calming down his sister. But when that doesn't work, and Rashawna throws a bailiff a right hook, Big Brother's caught in the middle. Officers try to restrain him, but he sends one of them flying. Meanwhile, the judge makes a quick exit. As one deputy fights to gain control of Morrison, another puts her brother in handcuffs. And here come even more officers to shut things down. As Morrison and Smith are taken away, a third person is also restrained in the back of the courtroom. Their mother.
You should have videoed this. You should have videoed this.
Smith and his mother are hit with 48 hours in jail for resisting a public officer, while Morrison receives 30 days. Morrison and her husband now have a joint custody agreement. Judge James Hill received a public reprimand by the North Carolina Supreme Court for improperly exercising his contempt powers, failing to maintain order and decorum, and making inappropriate comments.
And I will personally see to it that you never see a free day in your life.
Next, we head to family court in Putnam County, West Virginia for a divorce hearing. The parties are Arthur Haig, a church pastor, and his estranged wife, Lillian. The judge is William Watkins III. At issue is Haig's refusal to sign a deed which would allow his wife to sell their home. But before things get started, Judge Watkins has a stern warning for Haig.
Mr. Haig, if you say one word out of turn, you're going to jail. Do you understand me? Yes or no?
Judge Watkins is angry with Haig because he believes the pastor revealed personal information about him through the media.
After we closed here, you went out there and talked to a reporter. This morning, I now see an article with a picture of my home. My home on the front page. Don't tell you to speak! My wife is disabled. She's there alone. And you disgusting piece of... You put up our picture of my house. I swear to you, I'm holding you personally responsible for anything that happens at my house. I promise you that if I so much as see somebody blanking at my home, my wife, my family, you and me are going to have a problem.
Haig's name was not mentioned in the article, which was about Judge Watson's standing in a local homeowners association. But that doesn't stop him from continuing his attack.
It's disgraceful. Well, buddy, it's personal. And I promise you, you will not hear the end of it from me. You know, when you threaten my family, I will personally see to it that you never see a free day in your life. You understand that? You're going to jail. I swear to God.
Watkins eventually calms down and tries to get back on track.
You swear testimony about to give you the truth, whole truth, nothing but the true self to God.
Yes.
Ms. Wallace, what's the nature of your motion?
Yep. The closing attorney is requiring his signature.
All right, Mr. Haig, what's your response?
My response is I cannot sign this because it's against my conviction.
Watkins rules against Haig and says he must sign the deed and pay a third party to expedite the process.
I'm going to direct that Mr. Haig pay him the sum of $500 for his services no later than Friday.
I'll sign it. I don't have that kind of money.
I don't care. You'll find it. It's a damn lie, and you know it's a damn lie.
I cannot.
I'm about, shut up, I didn't tell you to talk. Did I tell you to talk? What did I tell you right at the beginning of the hearing? Are you deaf? Huh?
The judge ultimately rules in favor of Lillian Haig and orders the pastor to pay a number of expenses once the house is sold.
Shut up, I didn't ask you to speak.
But Haig has his own response when he files a complaint against Watkins with the Judicial Investigation Commission. Judge Watkins admits to overreacting and recuses himself from the case. But it doesn't end there. It's later determined that Judge Watkins has a history of berating litigants and attorneys.
I don't travel.
Ma'am, I didn't ask you for a speech. I'm not.
Well, I'm not. You know, you're saying
Hush.
that.
What, you think this is funny? You want
No,
to go to jail
I don't,
now?
sir, I don't.
Then
I
shut
don't
up.
think it's...
Take his ass into custody. I'm tired of it.
Watkins' case makes it to the West Virginia Court of Appeals, where he's censured for 24 violations, including his offensive language and failing to complete required tasks like entering protective orders into the state's registry. Watkins is suspended without pay for the remaining 4 years of his term. Now to the Clark County Superior Court in Vancouver, Washington.
I'm scared of him.
Judge John Woolley is ruling on a woman's petition for a restraining order against the father of one of her children, 51-year-old Alexander Adzagiri. The defendant maintains that he isn't even the child's father.
He took me to court already 6 times for paternity test, which we already did, but he's still harassing me. He's telling me to refuse from child support. If not, he will make problems for me.
Paternity testing's been done.
Yes, it's proved it's his, but he's still refusing to believe it.
The defendant disputes the findings of a completed DNA test using his saliva. Through a Russian translator, he insists on a blood test instead to determine paternity.
5 times I requested for the blood test and she didn't allow that.
5 times. You are the father of the child. The saliva test is a DNA test which scientifically proves you to be the father. 2, a legal action was instituted and a formal court order has been established. You are the child's father, period.
But this defendant isn't giving up his cause so easily.
Почему вы не хотите дать мне блуд-тест, который подтвердит, что я не являюсь отцом?
Why don't you want to allow me to
Это говорит о том, что...
provide a blood test to prove that I am not your father?
You are the father. Sir, a blood test is an antiquated test. We don't use those anymore. That was 20 years ago. Отказывал мне в сдаче крови, потому что она знает, если я сдам тест на кровь, и тест покажет, что я не являюсь отцом ребенка, ее надо дисквалифицировать как судью. Sir, this is not the Soviet Union. This is the United States of America. We use the best and latest technologies to determine parentage of children. Я смотрел в Европе на интернете, я не говорю Советский Союз, я говорю Европу на интернете. Many countries in Europe.
I'm not talking about former Soviet Union. She checked what the people or the people in Europe use, and they use blood tests.
This is not Europe. Okay, I'm done. Your order is granted. You're out of here.
Thank you.
It looks like an open and shut case until the judge decides to take a dig at the defendant.
I suggest you watch some CSI TV shows.
The courtroom laughter appears to further incite the defendant. He turns around to address Judge Woolley directly.
Обман в Америке происходит в тот момент, когда меня блокируют. В Советском Союзе никто бы не блокировал сдать блад-тест на проверку крови. Меня обманывают судьи американские, меня обманывают законодательство. Закон за меня. Меня пытаются обмануть. You are in contempt of court. You are under arrest.
Вас сейчас арестуют за то, что
Get me security. Now. Я говорю правду. Я говорю правду. Sir, you are in contempt of this court. You are going into custody for 2 days.
Adzagiri is promptly hauled off to jail. While the judge apologizes to those in attendance for his strong reaction, his response to this case and others is noticed and earns him a reprimand from the Washington State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Next, we're in Hastings, Minnesota for a child custody hearing. It's the second day of trial, and before official proceedings begin, attorney Michelle McDonald, who's representing the mother in the case, approaches the court reporter. McDonald then allegedly accuses the reporter of inaccurately recording the prior day's testimony. She then announces if the court reporter can't do her job, she'll do it. After returning to her table, she pulls out a camera and takes a photo of the courtroom. McDonald's reason for snapping the photo is unclear, but a courtroom deputy takes notice. First, he reminds the attorney that taking photos is prohibited in the district courtroom. Then he confiscates her camera. After what appears to be some heated back and forth, things settle down and the hearing proceeds. But 40 minutes later, during a recess, deputies reapproach McDonald, and they've got some bad news for her. She's receiving a contempt citation for taking photos in the courtroom. They escort her out to a holding area to complete the necessary paperwork. But once there, she refuses to cooperate or give any of her personal information, so she's placed in custody. She's then given a treatment typically reserved only for violent offenders. Under arrest and handcuffed to a wheelchair, the attorney is brought back to her table to finish out the hearing after refusing to stand or walk on her own. McDonald, who appears surprisingly calm given her compromising situation, refuses to speak to Judge David Knutson or present for her client. Following the bizarre incident, McDonald filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against Judge Knutson and county personnel, alleging improper treatment while in the courtroom and during her 36-hour detainment following the hearing. The lawsuit was ultimately dismissed, and the tables turned against McDonald. First, she received a 60-day suspension and 2 years probation for, among other things, repeatedly talking over Judge Knutson and for taking photos in the courtroom without approval. The Minnesota Supreme Court would later suspend McDonald's law license indefinitely for falsely impugning the integrity of the judge in the original case, David Knutson. Thanks for being a fan of CourtCam. Subscribe to A&E to never miss a new video and catch full episodes on aetv.com.